Ready, set, hut.
Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, here with my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
And Garrett Price.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty swell for some of us, not so swell for others. It's a lot of bye weeks coming on this week, and then, of course, so many more injuries. It's ridiculous. It's the same thing we say every year. Like, is there more injuries this year than there were last year? No, it's just a game of injuries. It's a war of attrition, fellas. Yeah, it's a war of attrition. Make sure.
Is it a war of attrition? Or is it a war of nutrition?
Nutrition, I thought. Get your bananas.
All the above. I saw a thing today. Bananas, how they're even though they're a fruit, they're closer to being an herb and related to the ginger root more than anything else. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. But we're back today talking Dynasty. We got a lot of injuries to cover here, and we want to announce today we haven't talked about reviews on the podcast and how they really help out the podcast and keep it atop the Dynasty charts and keeping us up at that top tier. And we decided, we have some Dynasty Nerds shirts in the back storage over there that we've been sending out. We decided to give out a couple shirts for free. So if you leave us a review on iTunes and let us know what you think of the show, and you DM that screenshot as you did so to @DynastyPrice, which would be Garrett's Twitter handle. Yeah, his DMs are open. Mine are closed, tight. Like the Virgin Mary. And, we're going to give away one of those shirts to somebody out there today, or not today, but next week. So check it out. We'll give it away. And before we do that and get in all this other great information, let's talk about our friends
and our bros.
Yeah, and our froze, if you got them. Over at Thrive Fantasy. Now, we've been talking about Thrive Fantasy here for a couple of weeks now. Almost a month, and what you can do out there. And like I said, I know some other podcasts out there. They're crushing. I am not crushing on Thrive Fantasy. I don't know why I can't get together every week, week in, week out. I think it's my point total. Is
Come
what
take
I'm really
Rich's
messing up
money.
So if you want to take my money, hop on Thrive Fantasy. You can do that right now. What is Thrive Fantasy? You're going to get 20 available player props, and those props might be, Daniel Jones will have 2 interceptions. So you're taking over under. Cooper Kupp's going to have over 95 receiving yards, over under. Julio Jones will have 5 receptions, over under. Like things along those lines. 20 player props. Each player prop comes with a point value. It's up to you to pick out which one that you like. Obviously, the harder the odds are, the more points you get. So that's where I think I'm really messing up. I'm going to start just going crazy here and taking the ones that I believe in for the most points. But those points that do accumulate, and with those, the props, the point totals rack up. Whoever has the most points starts to win all the cash, which I have not done yet. I'm trying my best. I have all this money in there, and I keep losing it. My account gets lower and lower. But right now, they have a great offer. And I'm still playing with house money because when I deposited my money, I got that instant 100% matchup from Thrive Fantasy. I put in $100. I instantly had $200 in my account. You can do that with a promo code NERDS. And right now, they have a very special offer for our listeners. When you deposit $10, you get a free $20,000 $20K NBA contest ticket. If you deposit $100, you get 3 free $20K NBA contest tickets, plus an instant matchup, $100 for all new users with that promo code NERD. Get up, prop up today. Visit Thrive Fantasy on the App Store or Play Store, or by visiting their website, thrivefantasy.com. Use that promo code NERDS, and you're going to be getting some free money. And hopefully you do better than I do. But good thing I'm persistent.
That's
now,
That's nerds.
Let's get into
that's nerds with an S. You said it a couple of different ways, but that promo code is nerds with an S.
Yeah. What did I say?
You said nerd here and there.
Nerd.
And, yeah.
Nerds.
That's what
some nerds.
Reader.
I just wanted to be clear so they can come and grab your money. I mean, that's it.
Come get it. So here we are. Let's start at the top of the Browns running backs. Both are down. Nick Chubb's out again this week with the calf injury. Kareem Hunt on the IR with the calf injury. So he's out 3 to 4 weeks. It's probably going to be closer to 4 to 6 weeks. I actually am friends with Kareem Hunt's cousin, and they're pretty tight. And he told me right after the game, I asked him, like, what's up with Kareem's calf? He's like, dude, not good. He's like, he's going to be out probably. He said it's not his Achilles, but he said he thinks he tore it, but he thinks he's going to be out for about 6 weeks. So he's going to be out for a while, which brings more opportunity to Dearness Johnson. And then, of course, Demetric Felton, their draft pick. Demetric's going to be more in the passing game. He's not going to get any in between the tackles, carries out there. Dearness Johnson, going back to his last time he got some main carries when both running backs went down, was the Dallas game the previous year. And he actually looked pretty good during that game. I mean, he had almost 100 yards rushing. I think he had about 13 carries, but he had 95 yards rushing. Looked really good this preseason when the Browns drafted Demetric Felton. He looked really good. There's a lot of question here in Cleveland. Would the Browns actually keep 4 running backs when they had Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb? Would they keep Dearness Johnson, who plays good special teams, but he looks so good in the preseason, his time and opportunity here in Cleveland? They did end up keeping 4 running backs on this roster in a position that's absolutely loaded. So it says a lot about Dearness Johnson's game. So if you had him, or he's somebody maybe to get onto the cheap, he should provide some fantasy points this week. If Odell Beckham misses with his shoulder at all, Demetric Felton will be viable in the passing game. They still might want to keep some things short when that pass rush gets a little wild with those offensive tackles out with the Cleveland Browns. Demetric Felton get a little bit more involved, but I look for Dearness Johnson to be the guy here, at least for Thursday Night Football. I do expect Nick Chubb to be back the following week. I did hear from my sources that Nick Chubb was close to coming back this week, but they're going to give him one more week and give him that long kind of short-term bye to get healthy. You guys like Dearness Johnson this week as a viable flex play?
Yeah, I absolutely see him as the guy that's going to be carrying the load there. And I think it almost leaves Felton's role unchanged. You know what I mean? He's going to be this guy that's going to flash a few plays here and there. They might use him a little bit more than they would in a normal game plan, just because obviously Felton he's an electric player when he has the ball in his hands. But you can't overuse him because he's a smaller type of scat back that's just going to mostly catch passes. So that really lines up nicely for Dearness Johnson, I think, just to be the guy and carry the lion's share of the carries here in the backfield for the Browns. Garrett?
Yeah, another guy I want to keep an eye on. We didn't really we don't have him in our injury news because we usually talk about the guys that got hurt this past week, but somebody that might be back this week is Jarvis Landry. And Jarvis Landry could be one of those sneaky start kind of candidates after starting off slow this year, and then he was out with an injury. People have probably kind of forgotten about him, but there's a good chance Odell will be out with the offensive line issues, Baker's shoulder issues. He's probably just going to be looking to throw it short to a reliable player. Jarvis Landry could absolutely be that guy this week.
Yeah, I think Odell actually plays this week. He did come back in the game last week. And I think Jarvis did practice today, which is Tuesday. So I believe they both will be on the field. Baker said he's going to play today. So it really just comes down to, are the tackles going to play? You know, is Jed Wills going to play? Is Conklin going to play? If that all happens, then all should be right on the offense, besides obviously having 2 stud running backs. But, you know, time for these guys to step up. Keep things a little bit shorter. Maybe Austin Hooper and Joku could do a little bit more this week, but that's where we're at with those guys. And Jarvis will be back this week, most likely. Alex Collins for the Seahawks, hips and glute. He's day-to-day. They've been talking about Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny is about to come back, which is good because Alex Collins is banged up here. Chris Carson banged up. DJ Dallas just not looking good enough to get it done out there.
Whoa. Every time he's out there, all that man does is catch passes.
Yeah, I was just say he's carving himself out of role, I think, in the passing game. That's where
he's unnecessary hate, Rich.
Biggest impact.
He does not look relevant enough for any dynasty team to get out in your roster.
You know what? I started him in a league I was desperate this week, and I got 9 points from him.
There you go.
I retract that statement. He's a nice little flex play out there if you want to get about 9 points per game. If both these guys are out, he is very viable in the passing game. Rashad Penny, we don't know who he's going to bring in the passing game.
There are a lot of big names on bye this week as well, so you might need a guy like DJ Dallas to kind of injuries this week. But glute, for Alex Collins, is this the gluteus maximus? Is that what got injured here?
Well, we'll talk about Jarrett Patterson in a little bit.
All right, so it's not
definitely not the minimus.
All right, I was just checking.
No, I mean, I saw DJ Dallas come in there. I mean, didn't he have a fumble? Was that this week or last week?
He did fumble, but he recovered it.
Oh, it was recovered. I know. I was watching that game. I was like, "Come on, DJ, let's get it this week." And I was just not enough for me. I don't know. When I watch him play, like he's somebody like obviously friend of the show.
Did you see the monster kick returns too?
Do you get fantasy points for that?
Some leagues.
Yeah, not my league, so I'm not really too relative for me. I'm just here. I'm just trying to find a way to get the main points as I can. Like obviously, like Matt said, this is a big week. A guy like D.D. Dallas does have relevancy to your dynasty teams. It's a great week to get out there and make some of these small trades for guys that can give you some fantasy football points. Where Dearness Johnson this week, he's somebody you could probably go out and trade for and maybe give up almost nothing for. He's going to give you points not only this week, but he'll be the number 2 back with Nick Chubb there, who has that calf injury for the next couple of weeks. Like I said, Kareem Hunt's out for multiple weeks. There's guys out there like J.D. McKissick, who we're going to talk about here shortly. He can help your dynasty team this week and going forward. There's a lot of guys out there that you can get on the cheap that will have some, relevancy here for your dynasty team, because this is a week, because wherever everybody else, like if you're hurting, you're not the only team hurting. Every single team is out there hurting this week and probably next week. So it's up to you to go out there and make these small trades to help you get through these weeks, because every point counts in these next coming matchups. Everybody's going to be really struggling with the amount of injuries and bye weeks all these teams are facing. And up to your depth, there's going to be some bottom league teams just looking to unload some of these guys that used to have no value only 3 weeks ago. So don't let another team come in and swoop. I mean, I had an offer this morning. I could use some running back help for J.D. McKissick and Mike Davis, and they just wanted my 23 second. And I waited. I wanted to revisit a trade to go look at it to make sure I make the trade. I just waited. I was like, I'll go look at it after lunch. And by the time I went to lunch, so he already made that offer to somebody else for J.D. McKissick straight over a second. They accepted it. And I was like, oh, dude, I could have used both of those guys on my roster this week and going forward, and I missed out on it. So you got to make sure we're staying active in these leagues. This is a really crucial time as we enter week 7 here of the dynasty football season. It's where we're going to start seeing some separation. Some people are going to start losing some close games. People are not going to have a lot of depth. You're going to see a lot of trades go by, and don't be that team, because you see it all the time when a trade goes through and you're like, oh my God, you got him for that. I would have gave you more, And it's people are like, well, you didn't propose. I updated my trade bait on MFL. I updated my trade bait on Sleeper. I didn't see you come knocking on my door. It's about being proactive. Don't let these trades come to you. Get out there and make these trades. Get the depth, and even a depth that play that might seem like, hey, I can only use this guy. I can only use Dearness Johnson this week. Okay, well, what if that calf injury all of a sudden acts up again, and now Nick Chubb's got to go IR, and now Nick Chubb's on IR and Kareem Hunt's on IR. Now you got him for multiple weeks. What if, kind of like an example is Chuba Hubbard, right? Where Christian McCaffrey was like, oh, he might come back in 2 weeks from a hamstring injury. Well, 2 weeks later, what happens? Now they put him on IR. He's out for another whole 3 weeks. So these guys are just dropping like flies. You don't know where anybody who's an immediate backup, when they're going to pop up and be the man for your team. And if anything shows us what's going on this season, we need as much depth as possible on these dynasty teams.
I was on Fantasy Pros this week trying to do my weekly rankings, and I looked at the running back list this week, and I was like, holy cow, guys that I would normally be ranking as running back 20, 25 are up here at running back like 12, 13, just because it's brutal.
No one ate their bananas. It's a war nutrition. It's just that simple, man.
I mean, I'll remind people of a name out there too that might be on your. Now he's probably on somebody's IR, but if he's on your waiver wire, it's worth checking. It's Jeff Wilson, running back for the 49ers. He's someone who's their leading rusher last year. Trey Sermon has just not been Kyle Shanahan's man. I know they traded up for him, but he's just Michael. It's not him. Elijah Mitchell is going to play over him again this week. He's just not getting the carries there. So Jeff Wilson's a good name that might be on your waiver wire. I'm with you, Garrett. Like, there's names on here. I do my thing for ESPN Cleveland out here and Bally Sports TV show, and I'm looking at my running back rankings this week, and I have guys in here that Chuba Hubbard top 12 this week, Darrell Williams top 12 this week, Elijah Mitchell top 15, Devontae Booker, Damon Harris, J.D. McKissick. Guys are just on my list that are top 24 plays. Dearness Johnson that could have been waiver wire fodder, So it's a crazy time of the year, but these guys are all they're going to be able to help you. Devontae Booker is a top 15 play, giving you double-digit points week in and week out. Damon Harris looks good. And there's a couple other guys we're going to talk about on this show here as we move on as well. More injury news. Paris Campbell, foot injury. I think he broke a foot. He went on IR, I believe, today. Talking about a player that had a lot of upside, nice little sneaky guy. We've talked about him multiple times here at the Dynasty Nerds podcast that has just it looks like he's just one of those guys, another guy of Ohio State, kind of like Curtis Samuel, that where, yeah, he is talented, but his body's just not made to play in the NFL, because with him, it's just one different injury after another injury. So his entire body has come from a box on Christmas morning and says Fragile on it, and I don't think it's going to be lighting up any room anytime soon.
No, and it's a shame.
Yeah,
too,
it's been really disappointing.
He was just starting
Go
to click. I feel like he was just starting to click a little bit. Week 5, he saw 6 targets, 4 receptions, 56 yards. Nothing crazy, but you were finally starting to see a little bit of volume there. And even this past, in week 6, it was 1 catch, 51 yards, and a touchdown. So he's showing some big playability there as well. And now he's out again. And like you said, Rich, he is just. I mean, every time he starts getting going, it's like it's not like a little injury. It's a catastrophic type of thing where he's going to miss a huge chunk of time. And this is just the story kind of his whole career so far. So it
doesn't matter how slow he goes over that speed bump. Those wheels are falling off. It's like, Jesus, use more than a toothpick for an axle. What's going on over there, Paris Campbell?
So it's a bummer.
That offense could use him too. They're finally getting things going. The Colts offense is looking like they're all gelling, and then he's down and out again, and that's frustrating because he did have a promising career, but it seems unlikely at this point that he's ever going to be able to sustain a long enough stretch of time to be fantasy relevant.
What opened up another window for somebody who did just come back? You mentioned Carson Wentz has looked really good these last couple of weeks out there, playing very well. The offense is starting to come together. T.Y. Hilton came back this week and had a nice little game there for his first game back. So if you're looking for a team, they do a lot of play. They do run that play action there with Jonathan Taylor behind that backfield, who's looking absolutely dynamic. We're going to talk about him later here too, where T.Y. Hilton, is T.Y. Hilton going to cost you more than a 3rd-round pick for a player that offers some really good upside and give you down the stretch? I would pay a 3rd-round pick on a championship caliber team for a guy like T.Y. Hilton. So, with Paris Campbell not being there, who was their speed threat, that opens up everything for T.Y. Hilton. Who's their speed guy? Michael Pittman's not that guy. He's their ex-receiver. He looks fantastic, but somebody to offset him, I'd be willing to buy T.Y. Hilton for that wide receiver 3 flex play that he's most likely going to give me double-digit points, but always available for those big games, right? That 1 catch for 75 yards and a touchdown to give you that 22-point game for the week. So I think when the Paris Campbell injury goes down, we always say, injuries open opportunity for other players to come out there and make some good cheap buys. I think T.Y. Hilton would classify as that kind of player here with Paris Campbell going down.
Yeah, he's definitely a nice little buy, and if it's at a what you said, at a 3rd-round price tag, I'm definitely all in on T.Y. Hilton. Not a guy that I would normally be interested in because his price was kind of always too high for me to the juice wasn't worth the squeeze prior. But at this point in his career, when he's considered the old guy on the team and kind of 1 foot in the grave type of guy, I would definitely pay a 3rd-rounder for the upside you're going to get from T.Y. Hilton for sure.
Well, yeah, and Garrett, wouldn't you be happy taking, like, if you own T.Y. and you're out of it, getting a 3rd-round pick? I know it doesn't seem like much, but if I can get into that 23 3rd round and try and keep acquiring more of those draft picks, like, the more ammo, the better there in the 3rd round, because there's always going to be a player that holds value in the 3rd round. The Ramondre Stevensons, Nico Collins, guys like that you can get in your roster. So the more shots that you have in the gun to go after those players, the better. So where a 3rd round might not seem like much for a player like T.Y. Hilton, he's not doing anything for you in the next couple of years during your rebuild.
Yeah, and especially with this injury to Paris Campbell, you might even be able to get a late second for him, depending on the team and the situation. So, I think it's one of those deals where it makes a lot of sense on both sides for a team that's looking to make a run to try to acquire him, but it makes sense for anybody that's not. Like, sell him off. And this is the year of the old wide receiver. Like, if there was a year for him to come out and do well, it's this year. Emmanuel Sanders is doing it. Marvin Jones is doing it. Antonio Brown's lighting the world on fire.
Yep.
Like, if there was a year for an old receiver, even AJ Green looks good in Arizona.
Even AJ Green's putting up fantasy football points. It's crazy out there.
It's the year of the old guy. So get out there, T.Y. Hilton, make it happen.
Yeah, another injury. Dak Prescott's got the calf injury, but they have a bye week this week, so it looks like that came in a good time. Looks like he'll be okay after that. Kadarius Toney, ankle, he went down again. He's going to be week to week. Sterling Shepard came back off of the injury this weekend, stepped right back in what he was doing. Heavily targeted, caught the football well. I had a stat line here on Sterling Shepard. Yeah, he had He had 14 targets, caught 10 of them for 76 yards. Keeping everything, Daniel Jones keeping everything short and sweet for Sterling Shepard. But again, I mean, that's something that Sterling Shepard coming in there giving you 17 fantasy points right out the rip out the gate. So we mentioned before with Tony, like how is that going to affect? He obviously got hurt, but when he's surrounded with other guys like Sterling Shepard, who's that short underneath guy, what would that do for Tony? And obviously he went down and Shepard stepped up big time. I saw a trade in our old league. Shepard got traded today for a 23-second.
Yep, I saw that as well.
Is that something you guys be willing to pay for a guy like Sterling Shepard, a second-round pick? Maybe not 23, but even 22-second for a guy who's probably going to come in and be a wide receiver 3 for your dynasty team here for this home stretch?
So Shepard's always been a weird guy for me. I feel like he's good in spurts, and he can give you those numbers in spurts. But he seems like a guy that always seems to get nicked up as well. So for me, I think if you're desperate and you need it, I'm okay giving that. I'm not going to fall all over myself for a guy like Shepard personally, because I just don't think he's like a championship winning type of guy. You know what I mean? He'll get you through bye weeks. You can plug him in every once in a while, but it might be just a little bit high for me on Shepard.
I think I'm in the same boat, partly because they've had so many injuries that right now he's going to be, targeted that heavily just because Galladay is out, Slayton's out, Tony was missing part of the game, Barkley's not out there. So I mean, you got to throw it to somebody. And so like in the short spurt, I think he's going to have a lot of be very relevant, but long term, it depends on where it is. If it's super late, yeah, I can live with that. But I don't know that I'm necessarily targeting him because I think the Sterling Shepard manager right now is probably wanting a decent return since he's played so well at the beginning of the year.
Okay. So, and 2 more injuries for him. This last one's you have something else to say?
No, I just would have liked to have seen. Obviously, Tony. You said he's week to week. It sounds like it's worse than they had initially thought. That's what the news that kind of broke today. And I would have loved to have seen Tony and Sterling Shepard, and maybe even Galladay or what's his name? What's your guy's Darius Slayton out there together just to see kind of this whole offense clicking, and see how this target distribution is going to work when everything's, I guess, running healthy, like how they envisioned it, when they put the whole team together. I would have loved to have seen that, but it's clearly not going to happen anytime soon. So yeah. I guess that's just pie in the sky wishing.
You could see what they were attempting to do. I mean, they had a receiver for every type of role. They had the big-bodied receiver. They had the possession guy in Sterling Shepard. They had the quick, twitchy slot guy in Tony. And then they had the deep threat in Slayton. Like, it makes sense on paper. All of that is put together very nicely, but they just can't stay healthy, man.
I know. That's why I wish I could see it and just, hey, who does Daniel Jones actually prefer? Like, because now it's just like, he's always just been throwing to the one guy that's the best guy available.
Whoever's healthy today, you get the ball.
Yep. So it's hard to get your mind around exactly who's going to be the top dog there for the long term, I guess.
Yeah. A couple more injuries here. Latavius Murray, ankle week to week. Terrace Marshall, concussion. His weeks, so he's going to be out for a little bit here. But the big news too is that Antonio Gibson has that stress fracture in his shin. He's got an MRI, but if he's got a stress fracture, he's for sure going to miss some time here. Potential IR candidate, which is going to really open things up. We got the muscle, little gluteus minimus in Jared Patterson, but J.D. McKissic is going to be the guy here that's really going to be involved as the team tries to keep pace in the passing game. He's somebody that we mentioned a couple times on this show as a cheap guy to buy as a flex play. Last year finished as a top 18 fantasy football running back. And look what happened this week right away when Antonio Gibson comes down. This is a player who he's seen at least 4 targets pretty much per game. But now all of a sudden he goes down. Antonio Gibson's he has 10 targets in the game, finishes with almost 20 fantasy football points this week. I know they played the Chiefs, had to keep pace, but this is going to be continuous here with the Chiefs. If you're looking for a guy to go out there and, I saw that trade go through for that 22 second for J.D. McKissic. I had no argument with that whatsoever. This is a guy who's going to come in and probably now with this injury finish as a running back 2 again in 2021. So if you're looking for a guy And we always mention these PPR running backs, right? The guys that come in here that have a floor of about 10 points. That's what J.D. McKissic's going to get you. If you're looking for running back help and a guy who's probably going to be there for at least to help you out for the rest of the year, I think J.D. McKissic is certainly worth a second-round pick for a championship caliber team that's looking for double-digit points out of their running back 2. And obviously he's going to be a running back 2 because if he's running back 1, you're not really a championship contender in the first place, and you shouldn't be sending second-round picks out anywhere. But what do you guys think about giving up a second-round pick for J.D. McKissic? Is that a fair value, you think, today going forward? I mean, he's going to be the guy catching all the passes here, probably foreseeable future. I don't know how long a cracked shin takes to heal, but I don't think that's something that you could put some Robitussin on and it all of a sudden be good to go out there.
Well, how about this? Literally while you were talking, I clicked on our Nerds Calculator League, which I am currently undefeated in, and I've got Antonio Gibson as a running back, and I went out and looked to see who had J.D. McKissic, and I just sent out a trade for the second-round draft pick while you were asking if a second-round draft pick is enough. So I'm definitely on board. I'm putting my money where my mouth is right there. So Waz, check your email. I sent you a trade offer.
Yeah, Waz was your crappy ass team. Rob Wozniak out there with his little bad team. What is Waz's record?
I don't know. He said he was blowing it up. So Waz, he's 3-3.
He blew it up last year in his startup draft. Yeah. Oh, he's 3 for 3.
He's 3-3. So
good for you.
Yeah, he's not doing too bad.
I know Izzy's blowing it up too. He's trying to get all his starters out the window.
He's 1-5.
So
yep.
yeah, I think it's fair value for a PPR running back. These guys. These are my favorite guys to buy this time of year. The guys that I know they're going to help me out, not only like this week during injuries, but going forward. And they're guaranteed. Definitely the worse the team and the worse the defense, the better I like that PPR running back because I know they're going to be in the fourth quarter getting me 12 points alone. So I like it, man. I like that trade. I have no problem as a championship contender giving up a late second-round pick for a guy that's going to give me double-digit fantasy points at the hardest position to find help at every year, let alone this year where these guys are literally dropping like flies.
Yep.
Yeah, it was interesting because Gibson, it was reported last week that he had the stress fracture, or maybe even the week before that he had been like trying to play through the stress fracture. And I follow Matthew Betts. He's one of the best injury analysts on Twitter. And he was talking really the only way to heal from this is just rest. Like you have to rest it. So he is going to miss some time. I'm on board with J.D. McKissic as well. Jarrett Patterson, he's not necessarily somebody I'm going to trade for, but he was a guy I liked in the pre-draft process. I have him in a lot of leagues. If you listen to the show, you probably have him in at least a few, just so you could make the gluteus minimus joke at the very least. So he could end up being viable because as great as McKissic has been, and I believe will continue to be, he still isn't a guy that you run a lot between the tackles. They're going to need somebody to do that. I think Jarrett Patterson will probably be that guy.
Yeah. Let's get a couple more news here. Gary, you have a couple questions here you want to discuss here before we get into a couple more late round topics. You want to have a couple questions for us?
Yeah. So let's start at the top here because somebody that preseason, it was a backfield that we didn't really want to touch. We said there's too many moving pieces. We don't know who the starter is. We don't know what their roles are. And Uncle Lenny has decided that it's his backfield because Ronald Jones has been non-existent. Gio Bernard was banged up and even coming back hasn't been used a ton. And Leonard Fournette has really been the guy. Overall in the season, he's RB11. And over the past 3 games, he has had over 110 total yards in each game. And he's totaled 3 touchdowns over that span. And he's been getting quite a bit of the receiving work. Where are we at on Leonard Fournette? Season-long dynasty contender, blow it up. Where do we stand with Uncle Lenny?
I saw he got traded in the league for me. I think Nerds 2.0 or Nerds 3.0, one of those leagues there. He got traded for a 23 first today. So I gave up a 23 first for Lenny because you're getting a running back 1. And unfortunately, that's the cost you pay. Even for a short-term rental. And at least Leonard Fournette has youth enough where like, if he doesn't even sign back in Tampa Bay, he'll go play somewhere next year for sure. Somebody will need Leonard Fournette's services because he's a solid. Again, he's one of those running backs. If you just feed him enough, he's going to produce at a fantasy football level. Like, is he the best running back in the NFL? No. But even his game last week, he looked good last week. Like, he didn't look just like, okay, that's a guy, give him all the carry. he looked pretty good. He was causing players to miss. He was running players over.
I was going to say, he can still.
I think that
he can still truck the occasional defensive back just like he did at LSU. I mean, he's got a lot of the same juice. He unfortunately he's a volume back. I mean, that's just what he is, and he's getting the volume now here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, so unless you have a player that somebody else wants, a youth guy with some upside, or even if it's a guy like Travis Etienne, right? Like if you have a trade Travis Etienne for Leonard Fournette, that's a cost you have to pay for Leonard Fournette right now. It's going to be a first-round pick, and whatever you give up for Leonard Fournette, you're going to feel dirty doing it, but it's going to be worth it if you're trying to win because, another thing, besides those early ankle injuries of Leonard Fournette, like early in his career that we were so worried about, he's been relatively healthy since then.
He absolutely has.
He's out there week in, week out. Yeah, he's playing with Tom Brady. That offense, you can't stock the box for Brady. They got now that OJ Howard looked good last week when they get Rob Gronkowski back there, have 2 viable tight ends. Even Cameron Brate's a viable tight end.
Yeah.
3 dynamic receivers, the best receiving core in the NFL, you can argue. So, yeah, I think Leonard Fournette, this is where he is. He'll probably finish as a running back 1, strictly in the fact where everybody else is getting hurt. They don't have a chance to finish as a running back 1. And he's going to week in, week out give you numbers. And the good thing here, too, is Tom Brady is going to consistently get them into the red zone. Right. So he's going to have touchdown production as well, too, which is the creme de la creme when it comes to fantasy football points for running backs. Is those running back red zone within the 5, within 10-yard opportunity. And like Garrett said, too, he's being used in the passing game. We thought that'd be Gio Bernard's role. They're using Leonard Fournette as a 3-down back. I think so you said season long versus dynasty. I think his season long value is extremely high, and dynasty value on a position we talk about hashtag 2 to 3 year window. You've already gotten that juice and then some on a Leonard Fournette. So I don't know how old he is. What is Leonard Fournette? 26 years old.
He's 26.
Yeah, he was in the same class as Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook and all those guys.
He's 26.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're talking about a younger running back that is consistently getting opportunity, you're not going to find any better value when it comes to price tag, probably than Leonard Fournette out there. Like I would hate to do it. Like I would have to I would really need a running back bad. I would probably look other avenues, but even then I'm probably overthinking it because that's what Leonard Fournette's worth. He's worth a first-round pick today.
Yeah, I was trying to look while you were talking. I was trying to look back to see past show sheets to see when I actually brought up Leonard Fournette as kind of the guy in this backfield. You guys poo-pooed me, but you guys made fun of me saying he was just playoff Lenny and it wasn't going to really happen. But I did see him as like the most talented back there, and I thought that he still had enough juice to kind of do it. Did I see this kind of production coming? No, but I thought he was at least good enough to beat out Ronald Jones in this backfield, which is what he's done. I mean, I think last year he came on late, so he was, I think, a little bit behind as far as the offense to a guy like Ronald Jones, and that's why Ronald Jones kind of still had a role. Before the playoffs anyway. And Leonard Fournette just carried that over. It started a little slow this year, but he's really starting to get rolling here. And he's a big time, I think he's in a big time offense. And right now he's putting up big time numbers. So definitely go out and trade for him. Like you said, Rich, you are going to feel dirty just because the history there. And he's a volume guy and he needs that volume to be productive. But he's getting it right now, and he's in a really good offense. He's in a really good place. You have to just see it as a short-term, this is going to get you over the hump and get you the championship, and whatever the cost you pay to get there is just worth it in the end. And that's how you got to see it.
And maybe he goes back. He's got a role.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, Ron Jones has no role. Like if this was they're trying out for roles for a play, like at least like Leonard Fournette's going to be like the third character. Like Ronald Jones is just playing a tree. Like he's like, you have no talent. Go put this tree costume on. What should I do? Should I blow in the wind? Like, no, just don't move.
Just don't fall over.
Turn around. We don't even want to see your face. We want to see the back of the tree.
Don't fall over and you're fine.
So. Yeah. Don't fall over. No promises.
All right. Well, you're having to pay the highest you've had to pay for Leonard Fournette in a long time, but we like to try to get guys before they get expensive. And with that, is now the time to buy Ramondre Stevenson from the New England Patriots. We know that Harris has been a little banged up here and there, in and out of games. And this past week, Stevenson was used in the passing game, had 3 receptions, got in the end zone. Is this a little bit of fool's gold, or is this the opportunity to get in on a back before he blows up?
Yeah, this is the second time we've talked about Ramondre Stevenson, I think, in at least the last 3 weeks, and I do not think it's fool's gold. If you go back and listen to our rookie running back breakdowns, Ramondre Stevenson was actually a player that I liked when it came to running backs in this draft class. I loved getting him in the third round as mainly as I can. I got a decent amount of Stevenson shares. I thought he was a perfect hashtag 2-year window kind of running back that's going to come in there and get it done. Seeing as being viable in the passing game is even a little bit better out here. Damon Harris, like you mentioned, has been banged up. But if you're going back last week, this is a team that's got to run the football. Last week alone, we saw it because he got, with what Stevenson was able to do in the passing game. Damon Harris was running back 15 on the week with 17.8 points, but Stevenson was running back 19 with 15.8. He got a touchdown out there. He got 8 touches. And this is somebody with Harris in the way he's been banged up and only been a 1-year deal. Ramondre Stevenson will at least have an opportunity to have more carries next year. I don't think it's fool's gold at all. I think more so I hope you just drafted Ramondre Stevenson just on our rookie breakdowns alone for where we had him in this draft. And at least I think I liked him enough if you like my takes out there about Stevenson. But I'd be willing to buy Stevenson. I don't know what I'd be willing to pay for Stevenson. That's the tricky part with Stevenson with Harris being there is like, what are you paying for him? Like people are going to ask you for a second, but I'm not giving up a second for Ramondre Stevenson because there's no clear path there to touches. He looks good, but I just know Bill Belichick is not going to start him over Damien Harris until Damien Harris starts to fumble the football or really screw it up. So like the only thing I'm concerned about is I like the player, but what's the price tag? Like, what do I have to give up to get Stevenson? Because I would easily happily get a third, but I don't think a third's going to get it done. A third? Would I give up 2/3? Probably.
A third. I don't think 2/3 is going to get done either. I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head with the second round draft pick. I think that's what it's going to take to get a guy like that because, whoever drafted Ramondre Stevenson probably did it in the third round. So they don't want to get just a third round draft pick for a guy that looks like he's got potential in the third round. They're going to want to bump it up at least a round to a second round draft pick. So he is a hard guy to nail down. And you, I think, really made the best point when you mentioned Bill Belichick. His use of running backs is so sporadic and hard to nail down, dating back, years. Before Sony Michel, there was the other, I can't even remember the first round draft. Lawrence Maroney. That was another first round draft pick running back that just never got used. He never got in the rotation, or he was very sporadic at best. And really, it's besides the pass catching running backs, there's never been like a guy that you can really nail down until you go back to like Corey Dillon. That was like a free agent.
Well, there was one. One, and he was the guy we comped him to.
LeGarrette
You guys
Blount.
Remember?
LeGarrette Blount? Is that
LeGarrette Blount. He was the one guy that was useful because of all of the goal line opportunities.
But that was like literally goal line opportunities. Like you couldn't count on him getting 80 yards. It was like you could count on him getting 2 touchdowns a week or like a touchdown every week at least, and maybe 2. So
he had 18 that season.
It's very hard to nail down just what you're going to get out of any New England running back unless they're a pass catcher. So it makes it hard for you to say, yes, definitely give a second for Ramondre Stevenson. Because I'm with you, Rich. I think from a talent standpoint, I think he could carve out a role and be that kind of guy on any other team. But on this team, I'm a little shaky as to whether or not I'd want to give up that second.
If I was a true contender as a very late second in 2022, he might be worth the gamble because if Harris goes down, he will be the guy there. So it might be worth the gamble, but I'd have to be real thin on Stevenson. I'm more looking he's the kind of guy, like, I'm just trying to find out, like, hey, I'm approaching the owner. I'd like to get Stevenson. I could use the depth here. Is there I don't want to really give up draft capital. I don't want to insult you with a third. Is there a player that on my roster that you like that you think would make a deal? Can you give me a couple of guys on this? And I would just try and hammer out a deal for a player Trey. But I do like the player.
Well, and he might be the perfect situation where he's the throw-in player, where you're making a much bigger deal and you need a sweetener. Like he would be a really good sweetener on top of like, okay, I'm trying to get CeeDee Lamb and I'll give you DJ Moore and a second and Ramondre Stevenson, or something like that where, and I'm not saying that would be the exact deal or anything like that, but something like that where he's the little bit extra that you needed to be like, okay, I'll make that deal.
I mean, I like that idea,
Right.
and if you can get him for something, not the same deal that you're saying, but as a throw-in type of thing, because I think it takes away a lot of the risk, and you're just getting the reward at that point. You know what I mean? So I like that idea.
Right. All right. Let's talk about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow over the past 3 weeks is quarterback 8. We're seeing him and Jamar Chase look good together. The Bengals are actually 4-2. It seems like this rebuild is accelerating a little quicker than most even expected. How far away is Joe Burrow from that top tier of quarterbacks that we talked about? The guys like Mahomes and Allen and Herbert. How far? We know he's not in that tier yet, but how far away is he? Is he getting close, or do we still need to see more from him before we can really trust him?
It's a hard tier to break into because there's elite quarterbacks. There's the kind of quarterbacks that will win you a Super Bowl regardless of the talent around you, right? They're just elite quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson's, Aaron Rodgers. I think Justin Herbert's in that category already. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes. But I think he's pretty close. I mean, where he is now, QB8 seems like it's a pretty nice spot for him. Jamar Chase looks absolutely dynastic, right? Like first round startup caliber player. That's how good Jamar Chase looks right now. He's pretty much like Justin Jefferson last year, right? And we've seen the production that Justin Jefferson gave us last year bumped him up to almost wide receiver 1 overall in some startup drafts. I saw him go wide receiver 1 overall, Justin Jefferson. So that's where Jamar Chase is right now. So having a weapons around him, having Joe Mixon, we saw him being viable in the passing game, busting up that big 70-yard run off the catch this past week. Having Joe Mixon, having T. Higgins, having Jamar Chase. If they can get another, a solid tight end, I would have loved to see the Bengals go out there and try to maybe acquire Zach Ertz instead of the Cardinals getting him for that late draft pick. But some on those lines as well. I mean, I think Burrow is well on his way because QB8, like Wu-Tang said it best, it ain't nothing to mess with. So I think he's pretty close. He's knocking that door because at QB8, you're right there at the door, right? You're on the doorstep, peeking your head and go, hey, guys, can I come in? Am I on the guest list? So he's right there. I can't think of it if in a super flex league, it's that's where we're at. How many quarterbacks are you taking ahead of him? Right now, here's a question for both you guys. Super flex league right now today. Would you rather have Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow. Matt's struggling.
I'm struggling. I mean, obviously,
the situation has everything to do with it as well.
The situation in Cincinnati is much better than it is in Jacksonville, and that's why I didn't automatically say I want Trevor Lawrence, because the situation there is up in the air. It is putting it kindly. So,
but all bad teams turn things around. Remember how bad the Bengals were just a couple of years ago? You throw a Garrett Wilson in there. Oh my!
I know. So I think talent-wise, I would go with Lawrence over Burrow, but it's not such a huge gap that it's out of this world to say Burrow. So I'm gonna stick with Lawrence for now. But Burrow is knocking right on. I'm nipping at his heels. We'll put it that way.
For me, it's pretty steadily Joe Burrow, just because I think we would all be very happy if Trevor Lawrence ended up being what Joe Burrow is right now. He is a legitimate top 12 quarterback that is creeping up upon that top echelon in a great offense that is going to be very high octane for a long time. So we've already seen it. We've seen glimpses of it at times with Lawrence of ooh, that was a really nice play, but we haven't seen it all put together. There's a lot of question marks there. So for me, it's definitely Joe Burrow for me. All right, well, I'm going to talk about PredictionStrike.com. I actually this week just went in because of the potential injury news to Antonio Gibson. He got that MRI. We still don't know what it's going to look like. But before we find out, I figured I'll go in and get a little Jarrett Patterson action. He's in there for $1 right now. I'm going to try to see if I can I don't need a huge gain, just a little gain, and then sell off those shares. That's exactly what you get to do at PredictionStrike.com. You get to buy, sell shares of players just like you would in the stock market. They have the web page. They have the app. They have all of these ways that you can go in and find. And it's not just NFL people. NBA action starts tonight. You're about that NBA action. Go buy some players in there. that's the beautiful part about predictionstrike.com is you can go in, buy, sell, trade. Best of all, promo code Dynasty will get you a free share. It will get you a free share with your first deposit of $20 or more. That's promo code Dynasty at predictionstrike.com to get a free share of a player for $20 deposit.
Nice. Love that. So let's talk about a couple more players here before we get out here. We're around the 50-minute mark, and let's talk about Chuba Hubbard. I mean, Chuba Hubbard's looked pretty good so far with Christian McCaffrey being out and his injury. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. The coach came out, Matt Rule, today. Obviously, we saw Sam Darnold's shares, Daniel Jones shares, right after we promoted these guys being worth multiple first-round picks, have just started to plummet. So hopefully you didn't jump on that quick react. But, dude, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, right? And maybe these guys still could rebound, but it's about acting when you can act on these players. He's not looked good, but Chuba Hubbard's looked good. Over the last 4 weeks, he's been running back 18 and averaging 14 points per game. A guy who has dynamic speed, a really good north-south runner here. What do you guys think about Chuba Hubbard and his price tag today? We've been talking about tons of running backs here. What's their price tag? What are they going for here? Would you guys be willing to buy Chuba Hubbard? And when he comes back, is he going to really eat into Christian McCaffrey? Because, again, we're looking at probably a short-term 3-week window kind of play for a running back here.
I mean, I don't really think, Chuba Hubbard's going to eat into CMC's workload much when he gets back. But I think he is a nice guy to go and approach that CMC, whoever has CMC on their team, and say, hey, are you interested in backing up your stud running back with his clear, obvious backup that's going to get all the work when he's out in Chuba Hubbard? And now you've just got a guy that maybe you drafted him in the late second. Maybe you can get a first, maybe a late first for him from one of these really, from a championship type of owner, or you can get, a player and a second back for him, depending on the deal. But you'll get a return on your investment for a guy like Chuba Hubbard if you go directly to that CMC, whoever owns CMC. Yeah.
A lot of these trades in here in the Trade Finder have I'm looking at these last couple of weeks in the Dynasty Nerds Trade Finder and the Dynasty GM. This trade just went down yesterday. DK Metcalf, a 24 first, and Elijah Moore for Christian McCaffrey and Chuba Hubbard. Brandon Ayuk and Chuba Hubbard for Cole Beasley, a 23 first and 22 third. And then Emmanuel Sanders, Brian Edwards, Chuba Hubbard for a 22 third and a 22 first. So packaged correctly, you could probably get a first for Chuba Hubbard. Maybe these guys are the Christian McCaffrey owners too. We're just actually seeing the trades, not the actual whole teams here. So probably the best person to target because he's looking so good to really. I think the best opportunity to get that first round pick would be the Christian McCaffrey owner.
I am a little bit worried about CMC long term, not because I think this injury does anything to his abilities or anything like that, but this is the second year in a row where Christian McCaffrey's been injured, and not only has he been injured, but they brought him back too quickly or thought about bringing him back too quickly, and then there was a setback, and then he was out even more time. And this is a team that has legitimate playoff aspirations. They went out and they went and got Jalen Smith. They went out and they got the corner from New England. I can't think of his name.
I know what you're talking about.
They're going out and acquiring
Gilmore.
Gilmore. Exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. Stephon Gilmore. So they're going out and getting these high value names. They're making deals, making trades, signing free agents. They're doing all the things that a contending team would do. And so their defense is looking better. Their offense on paper, when everyone is healthy, is a very good offense. So I think this team does have legitimate playoff aspirations, but CMC has to be a part of that equation for them to be a dynamic playoff team. So I do start to wonder if long-term they scale back his workload, not a ton, but as opposed to being the guy that was getting an absurd amount of snaps. We know 2 years ago when he was the RB1 by a mile, he was getting 95+% of snaps. That was part of what made him so good. And it started to go down a tiny bit last year, but it was negligible. It wasn't enough to really hinder him. But I wonder if it starts to get closer to that 80% mark or 75% mark per game, which still would leave him in line to be a top 5 running back and maybe even an RB1 overall again. But Chuba just eats enough into it where he becomes mortal. he doesn't become this tier by himself that is so much more valuable than every other running back. So I'm not saying go out and you have to sell CMC or anything like that, but there's enough doubt in my mind right now about the situation that makes me think, would they consider just scaling back his workload a tad?
Well, I mean, I think those are good points, and I think I guess when Rich asked the question, I was thinking more of like a 70-30, 60-40 split, which I don't think is ever going to happen with a guy like CMC. But I could see it dropping down to 80%, and all of a sudden Chuba Hubbard's getting a series here and there just to kind of keep CMC fresh within a game, especially since he's doing well with his opportunities. So I guess now that you've broken it down that way, I could see it your way as well, like where it's dropping down to maybe an 80% snap share. Sure.
All right, last question here for the show, and I think this is a big one because we've been talking. This has really become the running back episode, and I didn't intentionally design it that way, but it's kind of how it worked out. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor had a couple weeks there early on in the season that was very meh. But these past few weeks, he has been an absolute monster. Big plays in the passing game, in the rushing game. And he's currently RB5 on the season. Where do you rank his dynasty value compared to Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, all of these types of players? Where is he in that landscape? Because there was kind of some discrepancy this offseason where some people had him as high as maybe RB3 and some as low as like RB6 or 7. Where is he at on the spectrum now?
I'm going to update my dynasty ranks tonight, so I'll have a better feel for it. But I'm torn on Taylor because there's an argument to be made that he's a running back 1 overall in dynasty right now, just because he's 22 years old.
Absolutely.
And Dalvin Cook's 26. Derrick Henry's 26, or even older than that. Derrick Henry's even older than that. I think he's like 27. So, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, 26 and coming off multiple back-to-back years of being injured, here. So I think there's a strong case, honestly, for Jonathan Taylor being running back 1 for dynasty purposes. Obviously, Dalvin Cook's better talented right now. Derrick Henry's a better running back right now. But when their points per game, I don't know what their points per game difference is. Obviously, Derrick Henry's in a different league of his own. The guy's
he's been a monster this year.
He's an outlier for sure. I mean, all the bad things I said about him for 3 years, like he's just really just rubbed it in my face because he's better. Like, I'll eat crow all day on him because he looks so unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like, he's an unbelievable running back. So kudos to him for proving me wrong. I mean, he's averaging 28.4 points per game. That's Christian McCaffrey level.
Yep.
Right. Like, it's Christian McCaffrey kind of player. So kudos to Derrick Henry and anything I've ever said bad to him, because I will never speak bad. Even when he goes downhill, I swear I will never speak bad about Derrick Henry again for how good he's looked. So we're looking here and we're looking at guys like that. Jonathan Taylor currently sits at what running back here in PPR leagues? Running back 5. He's averaging 18.9 points per game. So when you look at guys above him, like Austin Eckler, 21.5 points per game. Najee Harris, 20.2. 19.1 for Zeke Elliott, who's really looked really good out here. So for me, even Aaron Jones, 18.4. If you take out Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor is right in the mix for the points per game as everybody else. And I'm never going to look at the outlier running backs. I'm not going to look at just Christian McCaffrey, and I'm not going to just look at like Derrick Henry. And with McCaffrey's age and which is not old, but his latest injury history there, like I think there's a safe argument here to take Jonathan Taylor number 1 overall when it comes to running backs, because you're always attracted, for me, when it comes to running back, like, well, how many points per game are you getting me and how old are you?
Yep.
I had to start up this offseason. I took Saquon Barkley over him, and that's just a colossal mistake on my end. Like looking back at it now, that's a redo I wanted to have back, because I was always worried about, like, I always thought Saquon's receiving ability would always
boost
him where it needs to be.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But his injuries, like he's taking a big share too. So for me personally, I think I can make a strong argument when I update my rankings tonight. I can make an argument for Jonathan Taylor being my number 1 overall dynasty running back today. And some people say, listen, I see people out there, they talk this stuff about like, oh, there's such a overreaction to what's going on right now. And sometimes when it comes to dynasty, but I don't understand how sometimes people don't. I mean, Dynasty is like regular redraft fantasy football too. A lot of times, like everything, it's not. You just don't overreact. The game's changing every single week. New things come up. Players are getting hurt with major injuries every single week. Players show us a little bit more every single week. These players don't have an infinite lifetime on the field, especially running backs. We say hashtag 2-3 year window for a reason. So I don't think it's a drastic take saying, oh, I'm gonna bump up the running back one. Like that's just reaction for his last couple of weeks. Yeah, he's looked pretty damn good these last couple of weeks. He's 22 years old. So if you ask me today, like, would I rather have Dalvin Cook or Jonathan Taylor? I want Jonathan Taylor. If you ask me today, do I want Derrick Henry or Jonathan Taylor? Well, that's really close because I don't know if Derrick Henry's ever going to go down. And Christian McCaffrey or Jonathan Taylor, that's tough because you know what you're going to get with Christian McCaffrey when he's healthy.
Right.
But, I mean, we're talking about 2 years going on, over a season and a half now of not having Christian McCaffrey in your lineup. That's going to be almost 2 seasons without a running back. And when we talk about these short lifetimes for a running back, 2 seasons is like 30% of their total fantasy football production. 25%, 20%, whatever it is, that is a major window that you're losing out on. So for me, I'm going to say I easily could put Jonathan Taylor number 1. He's up there. Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey. I think all the guys you mentioned, and Derrick Henry.
I mean, I would like to throw one more name in that hat, I think, because I do think you're making great points on Jonathan Taylor, and it's even kind of changed my mind a little bit on him. Not that he wasn't creeping up higher and higher, every time I do my rankings anyway. But I guess I never really thought of it like, hey, maybe this guy should be above some of these other guys that you mentioned. But I think there's a case to be made just due to age and all that kind of stuff. But the other guy that I wanted to throw his name in the hat is Deandre Swift. No one is talking about this guy. He's averaging over 18 points a game as well and is only 22 years old also. And I feel like he started the year kind of on a snap count and the groin was it was starting to, bug him a little bit. So he was at like a 50% snap rate. And then you saw it climb up to 55 and then 60. And now he's getting up to that 70 or 75% snap rate. And I think he's a guy that's kind of on this trajectory, I think, now to also be in this conversation as a guy that can be considered for the number 1 overall spot down the road. Obviously, he hasn't done it for as long as Jonathan Taylor has, because Jonathan Taylor had a nice whole season last year as a rookie, and Deandre Swift only kind of flashed here and there. But both of those guys are the young guys that I see as really ascending players and guys that could, I think, challenge for that number 1 overall spot down the road here a little bit.
Yeah, I like that too, Matt. I like him. I like throwing Najee Harris's name up there to jump some of these major names here because of youth too. It's a young man's game with the running back. So guys like you mentioned, Deandre Swift is a good guy. That might be like, if you're a contender, what looks like an overpay today is an underpay tomorrow, where you're paying multiple firsts plus a player for Deandre Swift. That would work out. It's not going to get it done. That offer is not getting it done for Jonathan Taylor, right? Like, I don't think 2 firsts and a player is going to get it done for Jonathan Taylor.
Depends on the player, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it always depends on Justin
Swift,
Jefferson. Okay,
but Swift, you might be able to get.
But Swift, it might work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so and I think there's always that right now. The image of him is strictly being that PPR running back. That could kind of, if you get, like you mentioned, his snap count's going up and up and up. So he's getting closer and closer just to being the guy out there. And once that happens, that's it. You're right, man. He's somebody who could potentially be at this same time next year, right? Like, so we're in mid to late October in 2022. Maybe DeAndre Swift is in that argument of running back 1 overall, kind of same things I was talking about Jonathan Taylor here. So maybe he's probably the best value, even though he's still going to be super expensive. Yeah. Maybe the best value, go out there and overpay greatly for.
No, it's a good call. That's a good call. The only thing, and I think I'm at the point where I do, and I've been a Jonathan Taylor fan over the course of this time, and that's been well documented. But the one thing that still just gives me the slightest pause is Frank Reich does not seem to want to give him these Derrick Henry, these these Christian McCaffrey, these Dalvin Cook type workloads for whatever reason. I mean, we were midway through the second quarter, and he had 1 rush attempt this past week. It took him just absolutely hulking out and just making amazing plays in order to, and then he had an amazing week. I think he was RB3 on the week after all of that. But that's the only slight thing that gives me pause is like, well, why isn't he getting this monster workload that all of these other guys are getting? That is still puzzling to me, but that is more conversation for another day.
And when is that next Marlon Mack just outing going to be? Who knows? Like let's
never know.
Let's feature Mack for 2 quarters. Why not?
I hope he gets traded.
All right. Yeah. That's it for this show. Remember that t-shirt giveaway. You leave us a rating review in iTunes. DM that to @DynastyPrice on Twitter. And we're going to pick multiple winners there to send a nerd shirt. It's the most comfortable shirt you're ever going to wear, and your high five intake's going to be just raised drastically. Make sure to check out DynastyNerds.com. Check out that Dynasty GM. Remember, as your team starts to get worse here, you want to check out these rookies. We're adding a boatload of film to the Dynasty Nerds film room, where you can watch these rookies. And we have a lot of big things coming to the Dynasty GM. We had a big meeting last night about things we're adding for the 2022 season. You got to get on this. We're going to blow your socks off next year, what you'll be able to do with the GM, and how even more so it's going to be a one-stop shop for all your Dynasty needs. Here, again, what is DynastyNerds.com? It's a central hub to make sure you're in the best position to make all the right decisions and dominate your Dynasty Fantasy Football League. Support us, support the site, join DynastyNerds.com today, become a Nerd Herd member, and make sure you're doing just that. Because it's not just about, it's 356 days a year. It's not just what happens in season. It's about the trades you make. I understand what I said.
You could take 9 days off. It's 356 days.
just take a couple days off here. Skip a couple days.
He's giving you the major holidays off. It's fine.
I come and throw a couple. Gonna throw a couple leap years, away. So make sure you check us out. Get out there, DynastyNerds.com. Leave us a review. Get yourself a T-shirt. And we'll be back next week. And we're about to jump into this Nerd Herd show with a couple buys and a couple sells for this week.
Adios.